Hey guys, I'm Brittany from Quarter Acre Roots, where we talk about growing a lot in a little bit of space. And today is a very exciting day because I am going to be doing my early spring planting in my GreenStalk. The GreenStalk we're going to be filling out today is an original GreenStalk, which means that it has 5 tiers going all the way down, and each of those tiers has pockets that are a bit deeper than the other model, which is the leaf. I'm going to be growing strawberries in a leaf that I actually have coming to me very soon. I'm excited because it's bright yellow. It's going to look really good with this pinky magenta one. Those have the more shallow pockets. This one has deeper pockets, which really expands the things that you can grow, which is super important when you're gardening in small spaces. I love having my GreenStalk up here because with all of the tiers it has, it provides a total of 30 plant pockets. So that means that you can grow 30 plants in a 2-foot by 2-foot footprint, which is huge for when you're dealing with a small space. It is early March in Maryland, Zone 7, right on the border of Zone 6, so never fear if you are in Zone 6 and watching this as well. We are going to be walking through everything that I am planting in my GreenStalk for our super early spring crops. But before we get started, one of the things that we need to do is refresh our GreenStalk here. I do not empty out and refill my GreenStalk every season. The first thing I'm gonna do is take off the water reservoir. I have a lid on my water reservoir here, but this is just where you add the water into the top and then it drains down through the GreenStalk. So I'm gonna set that aside and then I'm just gonna start taking off these tiers. Each of the tiers has a watering disc below it. And when you're refreshing your GreenStalk for the season, it's just a good idea to take everything apart to make sure none of the watering disc holes are clogged or anything like that. Make sure there's no debris that's gotten down into the system. So I'm just gonna take all of these tiers apart, shake out the watering discs. Okay, so here's what we're working with. I'll show you guys a close-up shot. I mentioned that I have not replaced the soil in any of my GreenStalks since I first filled them up, but what ends up happening is soil just tends to disappear over the years. So I like to refresh these every year with a little bit of fresh soil, a little bit of leaf compost, and just pretty much whatever I have on hand that's a super well-draining solution designed for container gardening. So you can see this mix here has a lot of perlite in it. You don't want to use anything that's super heavy because it will waterlog your plants and the system will not work as designed by watering from the top, going down into these funnels, and then going into those watering discs and spreading the water out. I will say right off the bat, I am not a soil snob. You use whatever you can get your hands on. You use whatever you can afford. I splurge for my GreenStalks. I splurge for them because it's a smaller space, right? So I want to use the best. I love Fox Farm. This is Ocean Forest. It's a little bit more expensive in that you get 1.5 cubic feet for this at my local nursery. And for the same price, you can get 2 cubic feet for this kind. So what I generally do is just kind of like mix them together. They are extremely expensive, but I don't buy them for anything else. But for my GreenStalks, I use the best because I want the system to function as it's designed to function. When you're filling up your GreenStalk from scratch or with fresh soil, you want to make sure you get just about up to that soil line. You also don't want to pack it in too much. Just keep it nice, light, and fluffy. Okay, so we've got this first tier filled up all the way. And one note on filling these tiers up, if you're putting plant starts in them, it's much easier to put those plants in when the tiers are separated and when they're not stacked on top of each other. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this one back over to my spinner. I have one of the bases that kind of like spins it around, which I highly recommend because you can use it to spin around your GreenStalk to make sure you're maximizing sun exposure. Now you may not need this if you have it somewhere where it's getting good sun exposure all day, but once we hit the afternoon, the greenhouse behind me kind of blocks the sun, so I like to make sure I'm rotating it so that it gets a good amount of sun up here. All right, we've got it all restacked, looking full and gorgeous. So now what you guys actually came for, what I am growing in early March in Zone 7. I'm in Maryland. These are some kale starts that I started indoors. So I've got this water reservoir off, so I have a little bit more space to just use my little seed trowel here. Honestly, kind of ignored these for a little while, so I'm just gonna pick the ones that look the best. You can see some of these leaves have a little bit of yellowing on them. I think I was overwatering them a little bit indoors. So this is the kind that gets really big. It has a pretty deep root system, so really good choice for the original model here. But also you can pick the leaves when it's younger. You can let the leaves just get like medium size and pick them to stir fry up or something like that. But I also like letting the leaves get really big, and I like experimenting with what I can grow in different environments. So I always want to be as transparent as possible. I bought my first GreenStalk with my own money. I really wanted to try it out. I saw a lot of people, like influencers, posting about it and stuff, and I thought it was really appealing for someone like me who's always trying to maximize their space. So I bought my first GreenStalk and I absolutely loved it. It was the leaf model in stunning stone. I'll throw up some pictures of my first year with it. Then I loved it so much that I reached out to GreenStalk to see if I could join their affiliate program. So I do have a referral code if you guys are interested in investing in anything GreenStalk. They have all sorts of awesome stuff to help you ensure that your GreenStalk journey is a success. So if you get a GreenStalk, you can stack my code BYBRIT, BYBRIT, with free shipping discounts with existing sales. A lot of times they will stack. So one of the things I always tell people, wait for sales. Unless you are like really gunning for one specific color, maybe a limited edition color, and you don't want it to go out of stock, I always recommend waiting for sales because GreenStalk has some amazing sales. And if you use my link below, it will also auto apply that coupon so you don't have to worry about remembering it. So we've got all of these kale transplants in the top tier. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that watering disc back on. We're gonna get a lot of rain and some cooler temperatures over the next few days. So I'm not gonna water this today. I'm just gonna let Mother Nature give it a good thorough soaking over the next few days. And when you're starting seeds in these too, I will sometimes come in with either like a little spray bottle or just like a little watering can to make sure I'm moistening this top layer of soil where the seed is, because the system is designed to water the roots, which is what you want when you're watering plants. And if you're wondering what I'm doing right now, I'm struggling with getting this snapped on top. You want to make sure that all the snaps are in place on everything so that everything sits super secure. So you might get it snapped in one spot and then spin it around and see it's not snapped on somewhere else. But I've now got it completely snapped on, super secure. The next tier of what we're going to plant here is going to be lettuce seeds. I like Paris Island lettuce, which I don't know if that comes from the Paris Island where like the marine training center is, but I always think of that when I see this name of lettuce. But I'm just gonna go into each of these pockets and sprinkle a couple in here. So I'm kind of overseeding here because I have a lot of older seeds in my collection right now, so I am applying these very liberally. Here's something to remember too that I always do. I start with a pocket, I seed, I bury, I spin, and then I forget which pocket I started on. So I recommend doing something to mark which pocket you start on, whether that's not burying until you're done seeding everything or just putting something in it. I have a little ladybug rock here that I'm gonna use to mark those now. Here's a close-up look of how I'm gonna add these seeds. So I will just move a little bit of the soil out of the way because lettuce seeds like to be planted pretty shallow, and then just gently bury them. And then as they sprout, I will come in and thin them out to 1 to 2 plants per pocket. I think for lettuce, for the Paris Island, they can get pretty big. So I will probably thin those out to be 1 plant per pocket so they can get nice and big and spread out. But some of the other smaller varieties, I might leave 2, maybe even 3, because there is a lot of space in these original pockets. They're so much deeper. So I may do that for some other stuff. We're gonna do arugula next, and that's probably an example of something that I would let crowd a little bit in the container. Got my arugula seeds out here. I'm going to go into these pockets, and what I'm gonna do instead of doing just like a straight line, I find that arugula tends to be fine if you crowd it just a little bit. So I'm gonna do like 1 hole here, 1 hole here, and 1 hole here, and just sprinkle a couple seeds in each one, and then thin these down to 1 plant per hole once they sprout. On the second to lowest tier, I'm going to be alternating the pockets what I'm planting. So I did chives in 3 of them, and then radishes, smaller radishes in another one. So for the chives, I just did 1 hole and then dumped a bunch in, but for the radishes, I did that 3-hole strategy where I did 1, 2, 3, and dropped a couple of seeds into each one that I will thin out as they sprout. For the last bottom tier, I'm trying to decide what's best, but in the spirit of using up a lot of my old seeds, I think I'm going to do another alternating pattern, and I'm going to do pak choi in 3 of them, alternating, and then some beets in the other 3. For the beets, I'm gonna do 1 seed per pocket because I want them to get nice and big. But for the pak choi, I'm going to seed everything I have left and then just fill it out when they start to sprout. Okay, so to recap everything that we planted for our early season spring GreenStalk garden here in Maryland Zone 7, we've got some kale, we've got lettuce, we've got arugula, we've got 1 pocket with some chard that I did not flag because I found like a random start that I had stuck in there a couple days ago that I forgot about. We've got some pak choi, we've got radishes, we've got beets, and then there's one more thing I'm forgetting. What is it? It's chives. We got chives. Some other things that I have seeded in my garden so far that I considered for my GreenStalk here. I have papers because I forget everything. Some other things that I considered: spinach, but I have a lot of spinach already seeded throughout my raised beds. I considered a dwarf kale, but I ended up using that all in one of my raised beds. Some Swiss chard that's like the rainbow lights kind, the kind with the really, really pretty like bright red, bright yellow stems. And then rutabaga. We just don't eat a ton of rutabaga. I got a bunch of free seeds, so I planted some in a raised bed, but I did not put that in the GreenStalk. And then the daikon radish. I will probably try those in the fall to see how they work out, but I have way too many daikon radishes planted in my raised beds, so I ended up skipping those for the GreenStalk. Okay, so here's a final look at our GreenStalk here. I will just let Mother Nature take care of this and water it. I'm gonna push it right up to the front of this little patio that I have it on here, and I'm going to rotate it a bit so that the drainage tube drains out here into the garden. And I'm not going to cover any of these. GreenStalk does sell these little seed houses, but I am just going to see what happens by letting Mother Nature take her course out here. We are definitely not out of danger of frost yet, so I'm not going to be covering anything. Everything in here should be pretty cold hardy. We'll do another video when I get my lemon GreenStalk, which I'm very excited about putting my strawberries in. They're going to look so pretty cascading down a bright yellow GreenStalk. As a reminder, if you want to invest in a GreenStalk, I have a code and link below to give you guys $10 off of any GreenStalk products. Until my next video, happy planting.